Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, WIZE.
And welcome to I am your host, WIZE, and I have a very special guest on today. He's actually the author of Before and Beyond Understanding, A Different Way to Handle a Difficult Time. Welcome to the show, Rick White.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So we was talking a little bit off before for camera, and we were talking about positivity, and I was telling you that that's one of the reasons I started the podcast was to be able to put out positive content. I felt like there was so much negative content going on out in the world right now with all the George Floyd and all the even the election and all that just seemed to divide the country so much. And I felt that I just wanted to put out content where people shared their stories, inspirational, or if they had something they wanted to share with someone on how to develop whatever finances, whatever it was. And so that's why I started the podcast. And then you're telling me that that's what you mainly focus on, is showing how people to be positive. And one of my episodes is called 88% Happiness. And she was an amazing guest. So I want to take your take on it. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm with you.
Oh no, I want to take your take on it. Like, okay, positivity. What is it? Is this in your book? What's your book about?
Okay, the book is all about positivity. Okay, it covers a very wide range of topics, from grief to friendship, to self-awareness, to your God self, connecting with all the energies of the God universe that you can use to get a better understanding of how you can move into a positive framework. And if I can give you a kind of a take on what I'm trying to say, most people are of the impression that life goes on and something happens to them. And that's how their life is. They have these different things that happen, and that's how they proceed in life. However, I'm trying to make people understand that life happens because you control everything that happens. Everything. Nothing happens to you. You are the person and the entity and the energy that sets up what goes on in your life. Now, the crazy example of that is I played football when I was younger and got injured. I could say that I was injured because somebody hit me blindside, but that's not really what the reality is as I perceive it and as I try and explain it to people. I chose to be in that game. I chose to be in that spot where I was hit. I chose that my injury would be the one that maybe brought me to a place where I met somebody because they were assisting me with my injury. And that person might turn out to be a friend forever. It might be that because of that injury, I wasn't able to go somewhere, and that place that I might have gone might have been more injurious to me than before. What I'm trying to say is, if people would take the understanding that they control everything, you make choices. And even if you don't make a choice, that's a choice. So you determine your reality. And how you deal with that is how you live your life, whether you live it in a more positive or negative frame. Things happen to everybody. We all go through things in life that are painful at some point. But if we look at that and we examine how that pain occurred and what may have come from that, that was completely 180 degrees the opposite, then we really have a greater understanding of what we're here for and what we do. And that's what I try and bring about in my book, in everything. When it comes to grief, the initial part of grief is something that you cannot get past. But when you get past the initial part of grief, if people can understand that the depth of their grief is equal to the depth of the love that they were feeling, then they will be able to have a much more positive outlook on the rest of their lives, and also on the relationship that may have ended due to somebody's demise. So those are just a couple of things.
Well, it's crazy because at the age of 31, I was widowed. My wife passed away in a car accident.
Sorry.
And she was the one who had started me on my path of self-discovery. She's the one who introduced me to Abraham Hicks, bunch of other people. And when I lost her, I kind of lost part of myself, and I was going down. I was not myself for a long time. I was angry with everything. I was angry with God. And while I was in that stage, everything that could go bad went bad. And it's because I was in that negative state. And when I've started changing my life around and going into much more positive and realizing, listen, there's certain things I can control, and there's things that are out of my control that I need to accept and not let it drain me and bring me down and get out of the darkness. And it took time. It took some time. Me really hitting rock bottom and realizing that this is not where I wanted to be at. And when I started switching my mentality, started not playing victim and realizing that, hey, there's more to it. And I started focusing more on positive aspects of life. Life started getting better.
I hear you saying that, and I just get a warm feeling from it, because it is your understanding that was changing of how you have so much control, and that you control the negative and the positive. There's nothing that could have changed or prevented the loss of your wife, which I'm so sorry to hear. But how you deal with it, how your life continues, is what is really important now. And if you can reach out, and what you just said, I'm sure is going to reach your audience and get them to understand that not everything that happens that you consider to be bad is bad. It may be something that generates some good, as you understand a different perspective of how you see that. If that makes any sense. But
no, it makes a lot of sense to me, because I feel that she was preparing me. Like, she started me on my path. Like I said, she introduced me into the world of Abraham Hicks and Sylvia Brown and a whole bunch of different other authors and all that. And she started me on my path of spirituality. And yes, spirituality. She started me on that path. And I was lost for a minute. And when I got back to that, again, that's when things started to change. When I started focusing on switching the switch of my mentality, just going from being someone who was a victim and blaming everyone else and everything else for whatever was going on in my life, and started taking responsibility for what was going on in my life, and then things
Love it.
switched.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really beautiful, and it the beginning of self awareness can start at any time. When I was much younger, uh, growing up, and as a very young person, I was also a very angry person. I was headed in a very destructive direction.
Yeah,
And although, and I want to say this clearly to anybody who is listening, I do not recommend that anybody do any type of psychotropic drug or any type of drugs unless you are under medical assistance. But what changed my reality and what brought me much closer to spirituality was my particular uh, in involvement with psychotropic drugs, and that led me into meeting some amazing people who have really been my mentors throughout my life. So again, I don't want anyone to think that I am recommending psychotropic drugs for any reason, but it was the single most important event in my life and was brought to me but also by a woman who I love very dearly.
yeah, yeah, and again, at first when I first started my podcast, I really didn't share my story and all that. But then I began to realize that I have a story that people need to hear. People need to hear, like, I hit rock bottom. I was down there, and I battled my way back up, and I brought myself back up. And at first I didn't think people would wanted to hear it. And then when I would talk to people and tell them and all that, they're like, "Yo, you have a story. Share it. Don't be afraid to share it. People, you don't know who might need to hear it."
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and again, I'm so glad that you're doing this podcast because you're bringing your story and the story of other people to the world at large that is currently surrounded almost encompassed by negativity. And this is a way to break through it. And I'm so glad that you're doing this. I really am.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on and being a part of this.
Yeah, I want to
Because
just
when I first started, I would be at six.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to say that it's important to me that people understand the fact they don't have to be surrounded by negativity. Even if there's negativity out there, that they can create their own positive outlook and positive way of continuing through their lives. And that deals with so many different subjects, which again I cover in my book. It, it's very different than most any book you read because it's all photographs with a few words on each page. And at the back of the book, I explain some of the areas that I've covered. But to be able to look at something and be able to come into a positive frame is very important, which is why the book is, again, all photographs. Uh, Photographs tend to bring people to a place of serenity or peace, depending on the photograph, obviously. But
Yeah,
if you can get to a point where you are open to being in a different mindset, which you control, then you are much more in touch with not only yourself, but everything around you. And that can change from being negative to being positive.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like earlier today, I caught myself getting a little bit upset because the wife had said, "All right, I'm leaving work and I'm gonna meet you at the supermarket and all that." And I had gotten there early, and a couple of days early, and a couple of days ago, we had made the same plan, and she never showed up. She got by the time she was ready to show up, I was already done with the groceries and all that, and I got a little upset. And today it was kind of headed that way, and I was like, you know what? I'm getting upset over nothing. It's like she's at work, she's delayed. I'm getting upset over little pettiness. And I caught myself, and I'm like, why am I upset? She's late. All right, I get it. Let me just finish grocery shopping, doing what I got to do, and get over it. But it's those little moments that you can either let it keep bubbling and pissing you off, or you can just be like, damn, why am I upset over something so stupid?
And again, I love hearing you talk, because what you're saying is so focused on the now that we live in. We tend to get upset at things that have absolutely no meaning in the course of our lives. And if we do that with kind of no thought whatsoever, but when you take control of your thoughts and you understand, oh my gosh, what am I getting upset about? How is that going to affect my life? And in reality, your wife not showing up or being late or even coming and saying, I'm having a terrible day, doesn't matter, as long as you understand it doesn't change the way you want to have your reality. The way you want to have your reality is the way that you need to do it. And it's that simple. I know it sounds ridiculously simple, to some people absurd. Like you control everything in your life, to some people is an absurdity. But when you understand and you say, I take responsibility for everything that occurs, my belief is we come into this life with a path set forward. Now, my personal beliefs, I believe in reincarnation. I believe each lifetime is like a grade going through school. We start in kindergarten, we get through high school, we get out of high school, go to college, get out of college, go to grad school. And when we get out of grad school, at that point, we have evolved, hopefully to a point of being past human understanding, because human understanding is very limited. And the way that I'm going to explain that to you, the way that it's perceived in my understanding is we are isolated. Each human being can understand only through their own experience. Let me explain that. You can tell me of your most uncomfortable moment in your life, and I will understand it through my most uncomfortable moment. I will never feel what you feel. That's limited. That's an understanding that is confined to human existence. I believe eventually we will evolve to something beyond that and be able to share, be completely empathic with others of our whatever species we become. So I look at this as each of the lifetimes that I believe I have gone through, I have learned. And as we come back into the next lifetime, we have this path. And that path is set out for learning. And in that path, we place obstacles. And we have to overcome those obstacles as part of the learning for what we are doing in our evolution. So all of the pain and all of the obstacles and all of the things we deal with in our human existence is because we chose this path, and this is the path we are on for this lifetime. And if some things that we encounter become encounters over and over again, it's just a harder and harder lesson that we take with us to the next lifetime. Now, I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but that's my true belief. And I really believe that when we finish our reality here, and I'm going to tell you, I'm in end stage renal failure. Okay. Which means that, I go to dialysis 3 days a week and I have a limited life expectancy. That is of absolutely no consequence to me. My life is so positive, and I have been so blessed in my life to have gone through so many of the things that I have, that when this life ends, my belief is we return to our God self, our soul, and that combines with the God consciousness. And from there, we spend that time examining what we learned in the past lifetime and then take on another one. So there is nothing that can make me, quote, unhappy. Okay. I lost my puppy and it was very sad, and I went through my grief. And again, I realized that the depth of my grief was only an indication of the depth of my love for that dog. And my memories are only positive ones, only positive now. I don't feel that grief. What I feel is the depth of my love. Again, don't know that anybody is.
No, it makes sense, man. It really makes a lot of sense. It's something I believe in. I believe in reincarnation. I believe we're here living multiple lives to learn, because that's what life is. Life is learning. It's
Exactly.
nonstop learning. You're growing and developing, and it's when you stop growing and developing, that's when it's over. That's when you just wither away and go, because you feel like this is it. You're here. You've learned what you're supposed to learn. And me, I feel I'm still learning constantly. Every day I'm learning something new. In the past year and a half, 2 years now, almost 2 years now, I've become a audio editor, video editor. These are things that I'm teaching myself, growing, developing, and developing myself as a podcaster. I found something that I love to do, and I went out and invested in myself. I got the equipment that I wanted. I just constantly improve, constantly asking questions, always asking podcasters that have been doing it longer than me, hey, what can I do to improve, and what do I need to do? And they're like, it's time. Everything comes with time. And every time I record an episode, I improve that episode. I feel that episode is better than the previous one.
I love talking with you because you have that need for growth, and you're absolutely right. You should learn something. I don't care what it is, but something every single day of your life. You should add to your knowledge base. If you're not adding to your knowledge base, you're stagnating. Now, one of the things I found at my age is, I'm retired basically. And many people I know who've retired died after they retired because they just stopped. They simply stopped, and their lives became less than meaningful. And there was no reason for them to continue. They simply gave up. I retired, and what do I do now? I cannot. Again, I work with people on a regular basis, coaching them, mostly through my book. for things that they found in there that they said, this is something that I would like to get more information on. This is something I feel is personal to me. Uh, we've had so much grief with loss of life. You know, we've lost in this country 800,000 people. If you look at the lives of those around that 800,000 people and people who have been inflicted with this illness, we have tens of millions of people who are experiencing some degree of grief. And that's just one aspect of, you know, what keeps me going is to try and help people through that period. But there are many other aspects that, again, I like to really believe people can change and become more positive. And
Well,
that just keeps me going.
well, with me, I was kind of hesitant to acknowledge my success, like to for all the positive things that were going on with my podcast, with the recognition I was getting, with the downloads and the people listening and people tuning in and all that. I was kind of like, and personally, I felt like, man, we're going through such a rough time. I wasn't celebrating my success, and my nephew goes, "Listen, dude, I get it. I understand life is hard. Things are going on around you, but we need to celebrate our success. We need to celebrate the positive things that are going on in our lives to show people, even in our darkest times, we can shine bright."
You're right. And again, hearing you and hoping that the people who are watching this understand that that makes you a light. Okay, it makes you a light in this reality because you're bringing a different awareness to people that is literally lightening their entire world if they're willing to open just a little bit to see that, then there will be that much more light in their life. So I love talking to you. I'm enjoying this immensely. I'm hearing things that I, I feel are so vital and so important. And you're right there. And I'm really happy I found your podcast.
And it's crazy because when I first when I started it, it was more me ranting and all that, and I just wasn't enjoying it. And then when I started reaching out to people, and people actually started reaching back, and I started building up the show, and people started realizing like, hey, this is a pretty good show, and they started reaching out to me because at first people would be like, oh, how many downloads do you have? How many followers do you have? And I had just been starting out, so they would ghost me. They would not acknowledge me. They wouldn't respond to none of my messages. But I kept going. I kept doing that. I linked up with a gentleman. He hooked me up, and he helped me. He guided me along the way for a few months, feeding me guests and all that. And I appreciate that. And but then once I started really being more consistent, really with what types of guests that I wanted on my show, that's when it really started snowballing and going in a positive direction. And the people that I've been attracting that have been coming on my show have been some of the best content that I can imagine because they're sharing so much knowledge and golden nuggets and all these things that are helping me. And at first I was kind of being like, oh, I'm being selfish because it's helping me. But no, it's more me being self-aware and showing self-love that I'm wanting to learn from these people. And I'm wanting my audience to learn from these people. And so I just wanted, that's what I want. That's why I switched it from ranting and raving about politics and my job and negative stuff, just negative, all that was negative to me, and flipped it to the positive aspects of bringing people on who had positive stories, who had overcome being paralyzed or tragic accidents and all these things to turn their lives around. That's when I really fell in love with podcasting. That's when I really felt like I have a voice. I have something I have to share with people.
Well, again, I'm delighted that you're doing this podcast. And when you talk about people who have overcome, different aspects of your life, let me tell you that I was very athletic as a young man. I played what we call rough touch football till I was 35. Okay, playing with guys who were in their 20s, uh, and getting beaten up pretty bad. But when I reached the age of just past 50, and I have never been in a hospital, and never been sick, always very, very healthy. I went through a point where right now in my life, I've had 15 abdominal surgeries and over 24 surgeries under general anesthesia. Okay. I have actually gone through a point of dying and coming back in one of the hospitals that I was in. And I have absolutely overcome everything that I have ever encountered in my life. And some people say it's because I have this positive attitude. And I totally agree that attitude is everything. In sales, they say attitude determines your altitude. Well, it's true. The better your attitude, the higher you fly. And I am one of those people who, at the age of 78, is just insanely grateful and blessed that I've had the life I've had, and continue to try and play that forward. To pay it forward is how I work with people, who've read the book and come to me for assistance or explanation with, and again, the most dominant one has been grief. But to be able to do that, to be able to work with people, to be able to find a way to bring positivity to people is going to keep me, going until, my body just won't do it anymore. And that's okay. I'm fine with whatever happens. And I'm fine with whenever it happens. I'm about to attend my 60th high school reunion.
Wow.
That's going to be, I'm not really able to travel because I have to go through dialysis 3 days a week. But I'm going to do dialysis up there. It's going to be out in Long Island. And I'm going to be attending, because this will be my first reunion that I've gone to.
So you're a fellow New Yorker.
I am a New Yorker. I am a New Yorker.
Yes.
I've lived everywhere in this country. I've lived in Washington. I've lived in California, Washington State, that is. I've lived in New England. I've lived in Pennsylvania. I've lived in New Jersey. I have lived in, and I currently reside in Florida. I have lived in all of these places because my life has been so extraordinary that I have been able to find incredible mentors in these places, California being probably the biggest change. As I said, that's when my life really took a major turn. Again, psychotropic drugs began it, but the people that I encountered there were just amazing, amazing human beings. And I feel extremely blessed. So I will continue with this life, having overcome, all of those surgeries, all of those illnesses that didn't even begin until I was halfway through, or more than halfway through my life. And I couldn't be more satisfied with how my life is at this moment. And I only wish to share that and pay that forward with other people.
Yeah, and grief is one of the things that I know a lot about.
I'm sure.
Like I said, I lost my wife at the age of 31. This was happening in '08. The following year, I reconnected with my father after 25 years of not seeing each other, only to lose him Father's Day weekend of '09, after
Um,
reuniting after 25 years. So, and then it was quite a few years. Like I said, I was angry. I was angry with God. I was angry and it was a few years of me losing a lot of people real close to me. I lost two brothers in probably from '08 to like 2012. I lost two brothers, an uncle that was really close to me, that was someone who raised me, who was someone like a father figure to me, an aunt who, she was the reason why my family originally migrated from Puerto Rico to the United States. She was basically that part of, she was the patriarch of the family. She was the one who, and she lost two, we buried two of her sons as well. So it was a few years where it just, grief was just hitting me.
I can barely imagine what that must have been like and how difficult that was for you. And my question to you is, when you connected with your father and you lost him shortly thereafter, were you able to get to the point in your life where you said, after 25 years, I finally did connect with my dad. And although I didn't have much time, I had that connection back.
I think that's what he was waiting for. I think personally, that's what I think he was waiting for. And when I met up with him for the first, like, we had seen each other over the computers, but when I had first physically seen him, I hugged him and I whispered in his ears. I told him, "Listen, I'm over it. I'm not angry anymore. Let's move past this. I forgive you. Let's move on." And I think that's what he needed to hear, and I needed to say it.
Yes, yeah.
And when it was just, I guess it was something lift. It was just so much weight lifted off his shoulders that the next morning he got up. He had a hearty breakfast. He was ready to have a great dinner. He was like, "We're gonna have big dinner and all that." And he went and took a nap and didn't wake up. But it was just, I guess it was just him being able to reconnect with me, and me being able to forgive him and tell him, like, "Listen, I'm not angry anymore. I forgive you." It helped him come to terms that, I guess, this is what I needed for me to move on.
WIZE, let me say something to you, if I may. It was wonderful for your dad that he was able to hear that, but it was just as wonderful for you to be able to say it to him. And so, to me, that's one of the most beautiful things I've heard. You not only connected with your father, but you took 25 years of animosity or whatever it was that was going on and concluded it in the most positive way. And uh, that to me is a blessing for you. I really believe that is a blessing.
No, yeah, and it is, and like I said, like, I've dealt with so much grief in my life that people be like, "Yo, you're cold." It's not that I'm cold anymore. It's not that I'm cold. It's just, I know life goes on. Yes, it hurts. It's gonna always. I'm always gonna have. It's always gonna be pain. But I'll go and I'll reflect on a time, that something positive that me and that person might have had, and think and laugh about that certain time, and just go on, and then continue. Every day it hurts less, but it's just time. It heals with time.
Time is the ultimate healer, because eventually the depth of that grief seems less. But I'm very much an advocate of feel your grief, wrap your arms around it, hold on to it, and understand that the intensity and the depth of that grief is the exact equivalent of the depth of the love for each of those people that you have lost. And to hold that love is an amazing, amazing thing to be able to do. There's no hurt anymore. There's only love on that. Now, I understand what you're saying about time and hurt, but you can change the hurt. You can change the hurt by embracing the grief. Now, I know that sounds strange, but it's true. And one of the greatest mentors I ever had is all of us go through grief, different types of trauma. And he once said to me, there's only one way that you can get rid of trauma. And his words were face, embrace, and erase. Okay, his name was Bill Swartley. He was a doctor of psychology, brilliant, brilliant man. Spent time in Tibet with the monks, came back and was just this amazing person of uh, just incredible knowledge. And what he meant was when you have a trauma, face the trauma. And then, as I said, put your arms around it, embrace it. The hardest thing you'll ever do in your life is to embrace a trauma because it's so painful. But if you can embrace the trauma and understand that you have something from it that came to your learning, it will be gone. It will be erased. Face, embrace, and erase. So I only say that because you don't have to deal with the pain. You can deal with the love. And it's almost it's the other side of the coin. It's the same coin, but the other side. That makes sense?
Yeah. Yep. Definitely makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Oh man, this has been great, Rick, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. Now this is a part of the show where you plug away, let everybody know where they can find the book, where they can find your website, anywhere they can find you.
Okay. I will give you my website. My website is the title of the book, which is Before and Beyond Understanding.com. And you will find ways to purchase the book. By the way, I say this, I do not make one single penny on the sale of a book. I sell the book so that people can have something to bring a change in their life. And if they find something in the book that they would like to discuss further with me, I am more than happy to coach them in that area. I also have a page on Facebook. The Facebook page is just Before and Beyond Understanding. And there you will find a lot more information about the book, about me, about some of the things that, are going on in my life. But I am there for anyone who wants to get the book and get further coaching or a deeper understanding of something that they've read in the book. The book covers a huge number of topics. So there may be one in there that one of your listeners may find something that strikes a chord as a resonance with them. And that's pretty much,
Definitely.
That's my plug. And I appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate you, brother, man. I really do appreciate you. This has been a great conversation. I love having conversations like this. I love to be able to spread positive content and have people on who are positive, even with what you're going through in your life, facing dialysis. I had an uncle who went through dialysis, and he got a kidney and went back to the same thing, and it hurt, and it affected him. He didn't take his medication, and he lost his battle the second time around. It's amazing to see you still positive with a smile on your face, doing this, going through with what you're going through, man. And I love that. I appreciate you being able to be here and be positive and do what you're doing, even if you're going through what you're going through.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I appreciate you saying that. And again, I'm very, very blessed. This is just another, rock in the path that I'm walking, and I have no problem walking around it or over it. So it's fine.
All through it, yeah, don't matter.
All right, my pleasure. It's really been. If you can stay on after we're off air.
Yeah, of course. No, we are. We're going to talk a little bit.
Yeah, I want to be able to
talk a little bit
podcast on my website.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit after I give my shout outs right quick.
All right, fantastic.
All right. So now it's time for the shout outs. Big shout out to my Real WIZE fam, Brandy J, Poppy J, love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina, love you, baby. Appreciate you and all the support you give me. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless you. Be safe. And you know how your boy WIZE does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at WIZE_B_blunt, Instagram at WIZE_B_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/WIZE76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.